Welcome to this Nomadic Idea show where we discuss the uncensored truth about living full-time on the road, whether it's in a schoolie, an RV, whether you're a van lifer, it doesn't make any difference. If you are thinking about hitting the road and living full-time, this show is for you. This is Scott Ariane from This Nomadic Idea. We come to you every Sunday night, Eastern Standard Time, on our YouTube channel, every Monday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning on THISNOMADICIDEA.com, where you can catch the audio version of this show. And our audio version is always completely different than the video version. Just go to THISNOMADICIDEA.com, or you can catch the audio version on Spotify, iHeartRadio, any of your favorite podcatchers. On our 30th show, we talk about the pros and cons of van life. On this episode, we share what it's like camping in a camper van. We love it. We've done it for a long time. What we would do differently. And is van life for you? What's the biggest drawback of van life? What's the biggest advantage of van life? And what should you know before you go? Want to travel full-time in a van? Let's go.
This is not a drill.
Repeat, this is not a drill.
Shall we begin? Let's begin. Shall we begin?
For some, buying a new RV or new van is really super expensive, especially these rugged vans that are out there now. Very, very expensive. On our last show, we talked about going in debt. This may not be the best time to go in debt. That is why we partnered with Escape Camper Vans. Hey, you don't need to own an expensive camper van to hit the road and see some adventure. Escape Camper Vans inspire people to escape their everyday routines and embrace their adventurous spirit just by exploring a world in their camper vans. I mean, these are really nice camper vans too. I mean, we're not talking cheap. They're really super nice. Rent one this year and come up to Yellowstone. There's a lot of places to kind of stealth camp your van in and around the park, especially in some of these national forest campgrounds, and explore the beauty of Wyoming and Montana. Come up and say hello to us. We'll be here in Cook City all year up through October. So go check out Escape Camper Vans. So speaking of camper vans, this is like a great opportunity to talk about van life because we've been thinking a lot about the transitioning from our Airstream possibly to a van, bigger van than what we have now. But we spent a long time, 3 years, camping and traveling in our van, and I'd like to really kind of talk about what that difference is. I think there's some advantages to it. I think there's some disadvantages to it. So we want to talk a little bit about that. Our 99 Ford diesel, everyone should know about it by now. Especially with all the drama we've had. I want to talk about that on the show. That's our camper van. We have taken that camper van in places where our Airstream just can't go. And that's been the best part of our nomadic journey, is combining both the camper van and the RV. We have felt from the get-go that that was a huge part of our lifestyle, and that's what we want to do. And it's been very successful, which is why we spent the money in repairing our camper van. We've cooked in it, slept in it. We've been all the way from Quartzsite, Arizona, and have spent, I spent a month there during the RTR in 2018. Driven it from Arizona, camped in it all the way down to Florida, all the way up through Georgia, all the way up through Montana. I was camping in it in November, going up to Wisconsin. So the camper van has played a significant role in our nomadic adventure, and we love it. But for people that are kind of getting into it or trying to, figuring out what they want to do, man, van life has come a long way in just a few short years. The vans I see now are, oh my gosh, they're crazy. They are really pimped out. I really, especially some of the off-road, more the nomadic and boondocking vans that are out there, just blows my mind on what amenities they offer that. But I think if you're thinking about the van life, especially now in 2022, you got to ask yourself some key questions, and this show wants to kind of help you through that. The first question you got to have to ask yourself is, are you going to be traveling alone? Because that is a huge question, whether and what kind of van you think you're going to get. There's a big difference between traveling alone and having a partner in a van. And because it's probably going to make a huge difference on what kind of van you're going to get. Now, in an RV, it's different. You've got a bathroom, you've got a shower, you've got some amenities, probably a little kitchen area, and that's one thing. You can partner up pretty easily. Even in a small RV, you can still partner up pretty easily. But in a van, it's a little different. It's a little different. Someone's got to use the bathroom. If it's raining outside and you're not around bathrooms, someone's walking out of that van. I guarantee you, Ariane and I've done that many times where it's not been the most opportune time to say, hey, I got to go, get out. So that's one of the things you have to ask yourself right away is this adventure, is this lifestyle hitting the road full time? Is it going to be for you? Is it going to be for two people? And I think that is probably the number one question you should ask yourself right off the bat, is how that's going to work out for you. And then of course that, evolves into what kind of van, because you might get a little bit more expensive van or a little bit of a bigger van than you would if you're by yourself. They come pretty pimped out nowadays. I mean, during the winter and snowmobile season here, you have a lot of really cool vans that are pulling up here, and I've just been, oh my God, that's crazy. They all have diesel heaters in them. The people that come out here, they're prepared to sleep in their van in the coldest of cold temperatures, and they're pretty nice. They're pretty pimped out. But those vans are going to be very expensive. You can spend, very easily $150,000 for some of these vans, depending on what kind of van you're going to get. Is it going to be 4x4? It's going to be two-wheel. It's going to have solar attachments. Is it going to have a bathroom? Is it going to have a mini shower in it? What's it going to be like? And so that, I think the first question is, you're going to be by yourself, you're going to be with a partner, you're going to be by yourself and with your dog, you're going to be with your partner and two dogs like we are. So you got to ask yourself some pretty important questions early on before outing to spend the money on a van. Which kind of brings to another point, which I think is super important, is that maybe buying a van isn't the way to go. Maybe renovating a van. The van community is a very large community. The VanLife full-time on the road community, it's big, it's organized, and you can easily find places that have these van build outings where you can go and say, hey, look, I have this older van, it runs great, but I don't know anything about building a van, I don't know anything about what that would detail. And you can go to these rallies and get some pretty good information. And there's a lot of places, people, hell, there's some old YouTubers out there that used to be great in their van life story, and now they're building vans, and that's what they do for a living. So there's a lot of resources out there, and I think that if you can get a pretty good van that runs well, that maybe has a little mileage on it, that maybe maybe it's a 4x4, maybe it's not, but maybe you like it, it might be cheaper to build and custom build your van. It's nothing to, especially if you have a 4x4, It's nothing to spend. You spend $20,000 on a van that's custom made for you, that fits your lifestyle. 20 grand? That's nothing compared to some of these other big Mercedes-Benz ProMasters that are out there. So you might be getting away without having to go into this huge debt and having a payment, that fits your budget. So that's something that, you ought to take a look at, pretty right away. So I want to talk about the pros and cons. If you're thinking, and we get comments on our channel. We don't have a huge audience, which is fine. But the comments that we get, a lot of them, like, well, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm not sure about that. I'm looking into maybe next year. So I think it's important to go through the pros and cons. This is from our own personal experience, and I just listening to others. We've met a lot of van lifers out there since we've been on the road. But I think one of the biggest cons of the van life for us probably has been as a couple and having that alone time, and of course always finding a place to take a shower. You are going to have limitations in a van. That's just all there is to it. You're not going to be able to do what you want when you want as a lifestyle choice. You can go anytime. You can go anywhere. You can go any place anytime you want. You can travel anywhere. That's the best part of the van life. But living in the van, you're going to be limited to a couple things. One of them is going to be possibly room if you're with a couple. It's showering. Vans aren't typically equipped with good showers. Now, in our van, I've done videos on this. You can check them out on our YouTube channel. I think we have a channel, van our tow vehicle. I have a lot of gadgets. We have an outdoor shower in the van. In good weather, you can do almost anything in a van if it's good weather, and there's nobody around, which is another con of the van life, is that it seems like there's always somebody around. So all these videos you see about, oh man, these outdoor showers, I did this, like, oh my, well, that's when, it's great when there's nobody around. To be able to find a place where there's nobody around, that's the skill set, and that's usually the little bit more difficult part of the van life. I would love to take an outdoor shower every day outside the van, especially in Quartzsite. If you think you're going to go take an outdoor shower in Quartzsite, Arizona, with 1.5 million other people that think they're going to be by themselves in their new van, you got another thing coming. Taking a shower sometimes is a little difficult. You're not going to be able to take one every day. That's for sure. You might take one twice a week, maybe once a week, and there's a lot of alternatives, but that's something you have to think about, is the bathroom situation in a van. It's not always easy wanting to take a shower and having to go to the bathroom. It's not convenient by any stretch of the imagination. There are lots of alternatives, though, for a van that RVs don't have. So if you're traveling in a van all the time, you've got gas stations, you've got rest stops, you've got restaurants, you've got shopping malls, you've got a lot of Starbucks. You have a lot of places to go to the bathroom and just pull in and park, get out, use the facility, come back and get back on the road to where you're going. So, as that affords you, there's lots of places to go. The other thing that we have in the van is that we do have a composting toilet. We made it ourselves. So, if we're driving and, we gotta go, we do have curtains. I sit in the front seat, Ariane goes in the back, or she gets in the front seat, I go in the back, and, the composting toilet affords us to be able to go when we want. We don't have to pull over. We don't have to pull into a parking lot. And that's usually if we're, and we just gotta go, and we're just not gonna have time to pull over. Most of the time, though, you're going to have time to pull over. It's usually the showers. It's usually the showers that's really is the buzzkill for the van. But we have a composting toilet in the van. We love it. I urge everybody that is thinking about the van life, or if you are a van lifer already, man, look into the composting toilets. I mean, they're really convenient. I mean, big time. And of course, we talk about renovating versus buying new, and building out that van that affords you slide outs and little secret areas and places that you can push outside that don't affect the inside of your van, that you can utilize in good weather, by the way, in good weather. All these YouTube channels and all these Instagram, it's always amazing weather in van life, right? It's always beautiful. I don't know where they are, that's beautiful all the time, 365 days a year, but I'd like to know where they're going, because that's not the reality of any kind of nomadic travel at all. But apparently the van lifers know where all the good weather is. The other thing about the drawbacks of van life, it's privacy. Kind of talked about that a little bit. You're always going to be around people, especially if you're traveling on the road and you want to stop at a Home Depot, you want to stealth camp, or you want to slide in between the cargo vans, like I've done so many times in Home Depot, because my cargo van looks like a work van. I mean, if I put a sticker on it, nobody would ever tell I'm staying in that van, or I'm sleeping in the van. So I slide it right into the work trucks in Home Depot. Home Depot tends to have better Wi-Fi. But Walmart, you're always going to be around people, always. And the thing with the van life is that you are more susceptible to get the knock on the door and say, hey, get out of the parking lot, or get out of, you're not supposed to be here. But with the vans, I would argue that there's so many places to go. There's so many places that you can boondock and dry camp and sleep off the night. Many more places than RVs have. Many, many, many more. You have to understand that you may be cooking in your van. Again, all these slide outs, these beautiful pull-out kitchens. That's great. But now picture yourself as pouring rain. You gotta figure out how to cook in your van or eat something. So that's another part of the reality. That's the other uncensored truth we tell you, is that Mother Nature doesn't care about your travel plans. They don't care if you want a great, beautiful Instagram picture, in the mountains with your van. It just doesn't work that way. You'd be really, hard pressed right now. We just got 13 inches of snow in the last 2.5 days up here in Montana. So yeah, you wouldn't be cooking outside. You wouldn't be cooking outside in your van for sure. Water's always an issue with van life. You're always, they don't have big water tanks. If you build your own, you're going to have water capacity. Now, a lot of van lifers, they know how to get away with very little. But I think that takes practice. I think that takes some time on the road. Definitely comes with experience. But water capacity is always, an issue. Raining, cold nights, weather, vans are colder. If they're not insulated well, it's like sleeping in an icebox. I know. One of the things that we do, I think I have a video on this too, is that, we have sleeping bags. We have cold weather sleeping bags in the van. So I think one of our sleeping bags is minus 15 degrees. So, we've always stayed warm. You can get diesel heaters put in your van that can keep you pretty warm. We've got the little buddy propane heater. Read the instructions on that. We've talked about that on the show before also, to keep warm. But there's always alternatives for that. But that's one of the things you have to know. The weather is like this. It's up and down. Van's too hot, van's too cold. It goes back and forth. Rarely are you ever going to find a sweet spot. Okay? If you're traveling by yourself, it's lonely. You pull up in a van and you do all your beautiful, the lights and your chairs and all that stuff, and you're sitting by yourself, it can get lonely, and so you have to kind of know about that going in, that it can sometimes feel you become a little introverted, because you're in the van all the time. Hopefully you're not in the van all the time. Hopefully you're getting out and meeting people and meeting different cultures and experience what life has to give you. But sometimes sometimes you're in the van a lot. The other thing that you have to really understand about the van life thing is that if your van breaks down, you don't have a home. Very, very seldom are mechanics going to let you stay in your van while they are working on your van. So, and I go into a lot more about that on our audio version on the podcast. I'm going to break down exactly what we've spent on the van, what happened when we didn't have a van. I'm going to go all up into all the van stuff. I'm going to tell you the best campsites that we've had, some of the best experiences that we've had in the van, and why we love the van. But I'm going to go into much more of the cost in our audio version. And you got to ask yourself, can you afford it? Can you afford not to have your van or your home, your tiny home on wheels? Can you afford not to have that for 2 weeks? And especially now, because the one thing that we are all going through now is supply chain issues. So what used to be a 2 or 3 day wait for a part may now be 2 weeks for a part. So you have to kind of know that going in, if the van life is going to be for you. But the pros, let's talk about the pros for a minute. Minimalism. You don't have much to have a good time. You don't need much to have a great time. You will be floored at how little you need to live a pretty substantial, adventurous life. You just don't need a whole lot. As far as clothes, just crap that you've hoarded in your apartment, or you're in sticks and bricks, and now you're living in a van. You just don't need that much. I can't even tell you how much stuff we have given away since we've hit the road. We just don't need much. We don't buy unnecessary things anymore. We buy what we need, and we go by the rule that if I like let's say I like a hoodie. No, man, I love that hoodie. Well, that means I throw away a piece of clothing that maybe I didn't like. So we always give away when we get something new. That way we're not stacking and racking all of our clothes. I think the best thing about the van life, though, is freedom. And there's a cost to that. And I've talked about this so many times on the show. There's a cost benefit to your freedom and what that means to your mental health, physical health, your all-around lifestyle. There's a cost benefit to having that freedom. And I think that's one of the things that the van life gives you, is that you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, however you want. You can be in the snow one day and be in Arizona in the desert 2 days later. So it does really give you a beautiful freedom that you don't normally get living in the city in sticks and bricks. Our van has gone everywhere. Probably places where it shouldn't have gone. But it's gone everywhere. We have never not denied ourselves to go someplace in the van, ever. Ariane has freaked out a few times. She's closed her eyes. She probably called me some names, but we've always done it, and it's always ended up being great. It does give you a financial freedom if the cost benefit to your freedom has a lot to do with your mental health and your physical health, because I don't want to ever promote or say that, oh, you're going to save so much money hitting the road full time. Oh, there's so much cost savings in there, because quite frankly, that doesn't necessarily, that's not the truth in some cases. So depending on your lifestyle, there may not be any cost benefit for you to live on the road at all. You know, for young people, they're living at home with their parents and saying, hey, I'm going to go live the van life. I got news for you. I mean, you're going to be surprised at some of the monthly expenditures that you're gonna start seeing. Gas, food is a big one, and a lot of times when you live this free life, this free, beautiful life that everyone talks about, and it is, but you do have electric, water. You do have to get plugged in sometimes. If you're not getting plugged in, you're gonna have to invest in solar. You know, there's always a consequence, and there's always a financial consequence to your decisions that you're going to make about your freedom on the road. I got news for you. But one of the cool things about the van life, and because technology has come such a long way, is that now we have, you know, the ability to work in our van and the ability to, you know, pull in someplace, do a day's work, and then go hike, or, you know, pull in, you know, to Starbucks, go into Starbucks, you know, get geeked out on caffeine and work. There's a lot of benefits to that because the technology offers that. I have a friend who is a traveling nurse. She goes, I mean, she's in such high demand right now, but what she'll do is that she's got a very nice van. She will negotiate, hey, look, I live in a van. I don't need housing. I don't need anything, but I want to park in the security part of the hospital lot in the secure section, and she's never been denied. So she goes in there in the parking lot, and what a great gig. Nurses right now are so overworked, they're so stressed, and so she doesn't have to worry about driving back to an apartment that, you know, she doesn't know real well. She walks downstairs outside in the parking lot and stays in her van. And she can still watch movies. She can still have her glass of wine at night. She can still unwind and relax. And then she's got a 2-minute walk, you know, out of her van in the hospital the next day. So it definitely has a lot of advantages that I think a normal sticks and bricks life does not give you. But again, everything we always say on our show, it's about your lifestyle. It's the lifestyle you want and you are willing to work at. Because lifestyles don't come easy. They're not just given to you. You got to work at it. And that's the one thing that I guess in our closing we would say is that no matter what it is, but the van life doesn't automatically rubber stamp it, it's an easy life. Okay? It's not an easy life. It's just as hard as anything else you're going to do. You know, there's the stigma of, you know, hey, where do you live? Well, I live in a van. You know, some people aren't going to understand that, and you have to be prepared for that. Some people think, what are you, like, you homeless? You don't have a job? Like, what's your gig? No, I just travel. And so I think that's normalizing a little bit than what it was, you know, 5 years ago for sure. But you know, there is some stigma about the van life, and we should know because we drive a white cargo. We drive a white cargo van, so you know, when they look at that van, they're like, "What? Do you stay in that thing? What?" You know. So yeah, there's always some stigma to it, but I think overall you have to really weigh the pros and cons. You have to look at financial benefits versus freedom benefits for you, and you know, really assess, hey, you know, we're going to be in a closed-in space, but we're going to be able to go here, here, and here. Is it worth it? Do I like it? And then do your homework on whether that's a lifestyle for you. I love the van life. I think the van life is great. I think once you get to know the community, it's even better. And that's the one thing that the van life has that I would say the van life is, they've got a better community, I hate to say it, than the RV community, because they seem to be a little bit more real. When I used to go to the RTR, the Bob Wells Cheap RV Living, I had a blast. Well, anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. You can check out the rest of the podcast on THISNOMADICIDEA.com, episode 30, where you can listen to our most exciting van life campsites and experiences. Also break down on how much in total repairs that we've spent in the van. That might help you out a little bit. What type of van would we buy today if we could do it? I think you'd be surprised. In the meantime, hit the thumbs up and the bell notification so you get notified on when we post something new. Really appreciate you guys. We'll see you next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we share the uncensored truth about living life on the road full time. We'll see you guys later. Bye.